In Washington, ghost-like objects dart across the radar screen at the CAA Traffic Control Center at National Airport for several hours, traveling more than 100 miles an hour. Air Force jet fighters spend several hours chasing the objects plotted on the radar scope.
Something else is out there.
There's something else out there, okay.
Of all the banks and braes of bonny Scotland, none holds more fascination than the murky waters of Loch Ness.
Tell me, do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
No, he seems definite. You seem
Definitely.
definite about it. How do you see this life and where?
Oh, I've seen a flying saucer.
Blackwater Media presents Darkfall. Real-life encounters with the paranormal and the unexplained. Many years ago, I had a series of paranormal experiences, after which I can honestly say that supernatural evil is real. In 1983, I was 11 years old and went to spend a week with my first cousins. It was really hot that summer, and the coolest place in the house was downstairs in the semi-finished basement, where we also slept. Now, everything was great until one day my aunt went grocery shopping, and we stayed home and played in the basement. A couple of hours later, we heard the heavy front door open and my aunt and cousin Jen walking up the stairs. Well, you know, boys being boys, we were excited to see what my aunt had brought back for us, and we ran up the stairs all excited. When we got to the living room, the front door was wide open and the back door was open, but no Aunt Joy or Jen. I thought it was weird, but nothing really scary. Now, my cousins seemed very concerned and they started whispering back and forth and seemed scared. Tad and Jim both decided that we should play outside until my aunt returned home. A little later, when she got there, Tad and Jim ran into the house before me to tell my aunt what happened. Tad, being the oldest, told her, "It happened again, Mom," to which she replied, "Oh Lord, son, we don't need this now." Then she looked over at me and then back to Tad and shook her head as if to say, "Don't say anything else about it." Naturally, this got me curious, and the more I asked what this was all about, the more annoyed and angry he became. Neither he nor Jim would tell me anything. Anyway, the next day or so went along normally, and we were having a great time, enjoying summer and playing. And then one night I saw it. Jim and I were sleeping on a mattress on the floor when something made me jerk awake. I looked over by the corner of the room and I saw what I thought was Jen just standing and being silent. I asked her what she was doing there and got no answer from her. Being tired, I paid no mind and quickly fell back asleep. In the morning at the breakfast table, I asked Jen why she was downstairs last night, and she gave me a puzzled expression and said that she never got out of bed, which was upstairs. My aunt questioned me and wanted to know if it said anything or touched me, and I told her no and asked why. She said, "Well, you must have had a bad dream." I told her no, I wasn't dreaming, and she got kind of short and said my imagination was playing tricks on me. Now keep in mind, to me, she was making a big deal out of nothing, but I realized that something was very wrong and I was getting a little worried. My cousins acted very strange about the whole thing, which worried me even more. The day went on as normal, and that evening my aunt decided that we would sleep on a foam mattress in the living room. And again, I woke up in the middle of the night and I sensed something was wrong. I mean, really wrong. I looked up at the head of the mattress and saw what looked like my aunt laying with her head propped up by her arm. I spoke to her, asking if everything was okay, and she said nothing. I sat up and started asking what was wrong, and still nothing. And then I noticed her eyes were blacked out, and that really wasn't my aunt at all. I shook Jim trying to wake him up, but he wouldn't move. I remember that I really started crying and shouting for Jim to wake up. Then this demonic thing screamed loudly and got up and ran or flew into the hallway. It was horrible. It was a black shadowy thing, and it left a terrible odor that's almost beyond description. My aunt and everyone came in screaming and asking what happened, and I told her that it ran right past you, Jim jumped up and ran to my aunt who was crying. My aunt loaded us up and drove me home. I don't remember much after Mom and Dad hugging me and making me feel better. I found myself just not wanting to talk about it in the days following and put it in the back of my mind. About a month later, I woke up late at night and my aunt and my cousins were in the kitchen. They all seemed upset. It happened again, only it got worse this time. My aunt was bleeding from her nose and her face was all red and swollen, and my cousins wouldn't even speak. They stayed the rest of the night, and I moved in with Grandma and Grandpa the next day. Years later, my cousin Jim and I reunited, and after a while, I asked what really happened, and all he would say was, "It was bad. I really don't want to talk about it." So I let it be. Now, my dad and I still talk about it, and he, being a tough war vet, says, "There's a lot of bad things in this world, and we probably don't want to know what a lot of them are." I think this was good advice. My aunt and cousins never went back. They even hired someone to retrieve their belongings. The house changed hands 4 times in 2 years. No one living there stayed more than 3 months. It still stands in a state of disrepair. It's been empty since 1985. I don't think anyone will ever live there again. That's the trouble with demons.